Imagine a warrior order so powerful they dared to challenge kings and even the Vatican itself. They were wealthy, feared, and shrouded in mystery. Picture men clad in white mantles, bearing the blood-red cross, their very presence striking awe into the hearts of both friends and foes alike. These were the Knights Templar, but who were these extraordinary men? How did they rise to such heights of power, and what was their true purpose? In the early 12th century, during the depths of the Middle Ages, a new order of knights emerged from the shadows of history, the Templars. But these were no ordinary warriors. They were warrior monks, a unique brotherhood who had taken sacred vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Their mission? To protect Christian pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem, yet their story stretches far beyond the bloody battlefields of the Holy Land. These warrior monks would go on to build one of the most powerful organizations the medieval world had ever seen. They created Europe's first banking system, advised kings, fought in countless battles, and accumulated vast wealth and knowledge. Some say they even discovered ancient secrets in the ruins of Solomon's temple. Get ready to dive into a tale filled with power, intrigue, and secrets that changed the course of history forever. From their humble beginnings as 9 poor knights to their tragic and mysterious end in flames, the story of the Knights Templar is one that continues to captivate minds and spark imaginations even today. If you're passionate about history and want to uncover the mysteries of history's greatest empires, like this video, subscribe to the Medieval Archives and join us on this incredible journey through time. Make sure to ring that bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming episodes about the fascinating world of medieval history. The story begins in the year 1119, in the aftermath of the First Crusade. Jerusalem had fallen to Christian forces, and pilgrims from across Europe were flocking to the Holy Land. But these sacred journeys were far from peaceful. The roads to Jerusalem were treacherous, plagued by bandits, raiders, and those who saw these travelers as easy prey. In those dangerous times, 9 noble knights, led by a French nobleman named Hugh de Payens, made a remarkable decision. They would dedicate their lives to protecting these vulnerable pilgrims. These men took solemn vows before Patriarch Warmond of Jerusalem, pledging to protect the roads and defend the faithful. King Baldwin II of Jerusalem was so moved by their dedication that he granted them quarters in his palace, built upon what was believed to be the ruins of King Solomon's temple. And so, they became known as the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, or more simply, the Knights Templar. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. These humble beginnings would lead to one of the most dramatic rises and falls in medieval history. The Templars' final chapter would be written nearly 2 centuries later, in the year 1314. Their last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, met a horrific fate at the stake in Paris. But even in his final moments, he showed the defiance that had made the Templars legendary. As the flames rose around him, de Molay is said to have uttered a chilling curse. He proclaimed that both King Philip IV of France and Pope Clement V would meet their Maker within a year and answer for their crimes before God's throne. In an extraordinary turn of events that sent shockwaves through medieval Europe, both men indeed died within the year. The Pope succumbed to a mysterious illness in April, while the King met his end in a hunting accident in November. This eerie fulfillment of de Molay's last words only added to the mystique surrounding the Templars, leading many to believe that these warrior monks possessed powers beyond the ordinary. To this day, historians debate whether this was mere coincidence or something more mysterious at work, but one thing is certain: the Templars' story was about to become legend. The Templars' transformation from humble warrior monks to medieval power brokers is perhaps one of the most remarkable success stories in history. While they began as protectors of pilgrims, their influence would soon extend far beyond the dusty roads to Jerusalem. Imagine this: You're a wealthy merchant in medieval London, planning a dangerous journey to Jerusalem. The roads are filled with bandits, and carrying gold would be like painting a target on your back. This is where the Templars' genius came into play. They created what we might call the world's first international banking system. You could deposit your gold in a Templar house in London, receive a coded letter of credit, and then withdraw the same amount from any Templar stronghold along your journey. It was revolutionary. Medieval travelers could now move across Europe and the Holy Land, carrying nothing more valuable than a piece of parchment. This innovative banking system caught the attention of Europe's elite. Kings, nobles, and even the Vatican itself began entrusting their wealth to the Templars. Their fortress-like buildings, strict code of honor, and efficient organization made them the medieval equivalent of a modern Swiss bank. But the Templars didn't stop there. Through generous donations from grateful nobles and successful financial ventures, the order amassed an incredible fortune. They owned vast estates across Europe and the Holy Land, controlled ports and shipping routes, and built hundreds of commanderies, fortified farms that generated enormous wealth. A little-known fact is that they even owned the entire island of Cyprus at one point. The Templars' power grew to such an extent that they answered only to the Pope himself. They were exempt from all taxes and local laws, making them effectively independent of any kingdom they operated in. Their financial expertise was so respected that they often served as treasurers to European royalty. The very same Paris temple where Jacques de Molay would later meet his fate was once the treasury of the entire French kingdom. But perhaps most remarkably, these warrior monks who had taken vows of poverty became the wealthiest organization in medieval Europe, second only to the Catholic Church itself. They funded the construction of magnificent Gothic cathedrals, financed wars, and even provided loans to kings. In fact, the English crown's first financial crisis came about when King Henry III couldn't repay his debt to the Templars. The Templars had created something unprecedented, a multinational organization that combined military might with financial power. They were the medieval equivalent of a modern-day combination of elite special forces and a global banking corporation. But as we'll soon see, this extraordinary power would eventually lead to their downfall, as those who borrowed from them began to resent their debts. As the Templars grew in power and wealth, dark whispers began to circulate through the courts of Europe. What really happened behind the thick walls of their commanderies? What mysterious rituals did these warrior monks perform in the dead of night? The very secrecy that had made them such trusted bankers now bred suspicion and fear. But the real threat to the Templars came from a most unexpected source, the throne of France itself. King Philip IV, also known as Philip the Fair, though his actions were anything but fair, found himself deeply in debt to the Templar order. The king's coffers were empty, and the sight of the wealthy Templars in his realm became an unbearable torment to him. What happened next was one of the most notorious conspiracies in medieval history. On Friday, the 13th of October, in the year 1307, and yes, this is actually where the Friday the 13th superstition originates, King Philip launched a coordinated strike against the Templars. In a single dawn, his soldiers arrested every Templar they could find across France. The charges were shocking: heresy, idol worship, denying Christ, and other unspeakable crimes. The king's men employed the most brutal methods of torture to extract confessions. The Templars, these proud warriors who had faced countless battles, were subjected to unimaginable torments. Many broke under the pain, confirming whatever their torturers wanted to hear. Some were forced to confess to spitting on the cross, others to worshipping a mysterious head called Baphomet. Pope Clement V, who owed his position to King Philip's influence, found himself in an impossible situation. Despite initial resistance, he eventually bowed to royal pressure. In the year 1312, he officially dissolved the Templar order. The Pope's decision, made under duress, marked the end of 2 centuries of Templar power. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Many historians today believe the Templars were victims of what we'd now call a hostile takeover. The charges against them were suspiciously similar to accusations commonly made against heretics of the time. Consider this: despite years of investigations, no actual evidence of their supposed crimes was ever found. The only proof came from confessions extracted under torture, hardly reliable testimony. The Templars' vast wealth seems to have vanished overnight. Their treasure ships sailed from La Rochelle harbor the day before the arrests, but where did they go? Some believe the Templars had advance warning and managed to hide their riches. Others suggest they found refuge in Scotland, which was excommunicated at the time and didn't recognize the Pope's authority. What do you think? Were the Templars secretly practicing dark rituals in their commanderies, or were they victims of a medieval king's greed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And here's another question to ponder. If the Templars did manage to hide their treasure, where might it be today? Hit that like button if you'd like to explore more medieval mysteries like this one. The legacy of the Templars endures far beyond their dramatic fall. Even today, nearly 700 years after Jacques de Molay's execution, the Knights Templar continue to capture our imagination and inspire countless stories, theories, and legends. Their influence can be seen in many modern organizations, most notably the Freemasons, who emerged in the early 18th century. While the Freemasons don't claim direct descent from the Templars, they adopted many similar symbols and ritualistic elements. The Masonic degree known as the Knights Templar explicitly pays homage to these medieval warrior monks. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the Templars' legacy lies in the mysteries they left behind. During their 2 centuries of existence, they accumulated vast knowledge from both Western and Eastern sources. Some historians believe they may have discovered ancient secrets while headquartered at Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. Tales speak of hidden manuscripts, sacred artifacts, and even the legendary Holy Grail. The Templars' sudden disappearance, along with their immense treasure, has spawned countless theories. Some believe their wealth was hidden in elaborate networks of caves beneath Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. Others point to the mysterious carvings at places like Rennes-le-Château in France as possible clues to Templar treasures. These theories have inspired works like the Da Vinci Code and Assassin's Creed, keeping the Templar mystery alive in popular culture. Their banking innovations laid the groundwork for modern financial systems. The check and balance system they created was revolutionary for its time and remains fundamental to banking today. Their organizational structure, with its system of provinces and commanderies, provided a model for international businesses centuries before the concept of multinational corporations existed. The Templars' architectural legacy still stands in the form of massive stone fortresses and churches across Europe and the Middle East. The Temple Church in London, with its distinctive round nave, remains one of the finest examples of their architectural style. Their buildings were not just places of worship, but also showcased their power and wealth through innovative design and construction techniques. But perhaps their greatest legacy is more intangible. They represent the eternal human struggle between power and principle, between worldly success and spiritual dedication. The Templars began as humble warrior monks and rose to incredible heights of power, only to fall victim to the very wealth and influence they had accumulated. Their story continues to resonate because it touches on universal themes: the corruption of power, the price of ambition, and the eternal mystery of what might have been. Whether seen as heroes, villains, or victims, the Knights Templar left an indelible mark on history that continues to intrigue and inspire people around the world. What secrets did they take to their graves? What treasures might still lie hidden in forgotten Templar strongholds? These questions may never be answered, but they ensure that the legacy of these warrior monks will continue to fascinate generations to come. After all, sometimes the greatest power of a legend lies not in its answers, but in its mysteries. As our journey through the remarkable story of the Knights Templar comes to an end, we must reflect on the true nature of these extraordinary men who shaped medieval history. They were far more than just warriors clad in white mantles with red crosses. They were protectors of the vulnerable, innovative bankers who revolutionized medieval finance, and devoted monks who lived by a strict code of honor. The Templars' story is a testament to how organizations can evolve beyond their original purpose. From 9 poor knights protecting pilgrims on dusty roads, they grew into an order so powerful it could make or break kingdoms. Their rise to power was meteoric, their influence unprecedented, and their fall spectacular. But what makes their story truly timeless is how it mirrors the eternal human struggle with power, wealth, and faith. Think about it. In just 2 centuries, they went from humble beginnings to becoming the medieval equivalent of a modern-day superpower, combining military might with financial dominance. They created Europe's first banking system, built architectural marvels that still stand today, and accumulated knowledge that some say remained hidden for centuries. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the Templar saga is how it ends. Not with a whimper, but with a curse that seemed to come true, adding one final layer of mystery to their already enigmatic legacy. To this day, historians debate whether they were noble warriors corrupted by power, victims of royal greed, or something in between. What do you think? Were they heroes who stayed true to their principles until the end, victims of their own success and others' jealousy? Or did power ultimately corrupt their noble beginnings? Share your thoughts in the comments below. After all, the beauty of history lies not just in the facts, but in how we interpret them. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most fascinating organizations, help us keep these medieval stories alive. Hit that like button if you want to see more videos about the mysterious orders and forgotten tales of the Middle Ages. Subscribe to the Medieval Archives and ring that bell to join our growing community of history enthusiasts. Share this video with anyone you know who loves a good historical mystery. After all, the Templars' story is too fascinating to keep to yourself. And stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll explore another captivating chapter of medieval history. Until then, remember, sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones that actually happened. See you in our next historical adventure.